Livestream, I am in a problem this game week, and I'm sure a lot of you are in the same situation, so I cannot wait to go through all of our dramas together on today's deadline live stream, as it just feels like there are so many injuries, so many transfers that we would like to make, so many chips being activated. So it feels only right that we share the pain together in today's live stream. Now, a little bit of context. I haven't made a transfer yet. I haven't done anything with my team, so I'm going to be doing it on this live stream in particular, hopefully in the next hour, because I don't want to be panicking in the lead up to the deadline. But guys, as always, let me know where you are tuning in from in the world. What have you been up to during the international break? What have you gone on this weekend? Let me know your plans. But the most important plan of all, what are your transfer plans? Have you actually made a transfer? I'm going to get a poll off to kick things off in the chat, because I'm really intrigued to know if you have activated a chip or not going into game week 4. So have you used a chip? And we'll put free hit. We'll put wildcard. I don't think there's going to be many other like bench boosts out there. Can't really see a triple captain either based on what we've seen. So I think a free hit, a wild card, very, very popular for a lot of managers. And I'm going to put no chip. Let me know what you are doing this game week. I'll be super interested to know, because it feels like when you're on Twitter, all those places, loads of people have got their chips activated. But when you actually break it down on the wider consensus, sometimes it isn't as popular as what we first think. Ollie, hope you're well, mate. Glad to be back after what felt like a while with this international break. Yeah, this international break wasn't the worst one, because England actually put in a decent performance, of course, in the second part of it. But nonetheless, international breaks are so damn boring. As I was saying, it's been a handful, so hectic, and this is what makes FPL fat. Yes, this is why FPL is a little bit chaotic at times with things like this in the international break. I was expecting just a couple of things to happen, but just a bit of context right now. We're in a position where we've got injuries, for example, Ismaila Sarr. We've got new players joining teams. Take Isak as an example, Xavi Simons. We've got potential minutes risks in João Pedro, Chris Wood. We've also got, of course, just tough fixtures in general. So with all that compounded, I feel like using the chip this game week is tempting, but also could be a car crash in itself, because I do feel like so much is going to happen over the next few weeks that is going to kind of clarify where certain teams and players are at. And we'll talk about that later on in this stream. More Tretnik, hope you're doing well, my friend, as always. Jonas in here, Nacho, hope you're well. I got one free transfer, 0.1 million in the bag. I've got Sarr. Should I sell to Reinders or Kudus, or roll and play Anderson away at Arsenal? Well, Anderson isn't the worst case scenario, because, of course, fantastic performance for England. He's been great for Nottingham Forest. So close both times, or 3 times, with defensive contributions. We would anticipate him to be really busy in that midfield once again against Arsenal. But with Ange in charge, we don't really know what's going on. I think in your scenario here, and I'm in the same boat really in terms of what to do with Ismaila Sarr, I think Reinders is actually not a bad choice. With the injuries that Man City have, I think it only clarifies that Reinders is going to play 90 minutes for the next couple of weeks. And with Rodri returning as well, I think that's going to free up Reinders to really be that progressive box-to-box midfielder like we saw in game week 1. So I do like Reinders. Kudus for me is a difficult one, because with Xavi Simons coming into this team, I feel like the sooner you go to Kudus, the sooner you might want to go to Xavi Simons at a more expensive price point. If I was brave enough, I would go to Xavi Simons this week, but I just want to see a couple of game weeks to understand what kind of role he's playing. Because if it's what I'm thinking, as a free-flowing number 10, like Maddison played last season, I know it was under a different management, but I'm expecting him to be really important in this Spurs team. So, yeah, I do think Reinders will probably be my choice over Kudus right now. Start Johnson. I'm assuming that's Brennan Johnson. If you own him, it all comes down to what else you have on your bench. But if it's Nottingham Forest players, as an example, then I probably would just play Johnson and hope for the best that he gets the minutes. But I personally wouldn't know what those minutes are going to look like for Spurs this week. Would you rather have Munoz or Cucurella watching from Birmingham, Steve? Hope you do well, mate. So, I mean, it'll be Munoz would be the answer. I think Chelsea's fixtures, and we'll get the fixtures up right now just to take a look at what we have over the foreseeable future, Chelsea have got Brentford, Man United, Brighton, Liverpool, Forest, Sunderland. So I think the fixtures are actually not too bad for Chelsea. Whereas on the flip side, in terms of Crystal Palace, the big one is this week, of course, at home against Sunderland, which is the real standout fixture. But then they got West Ham, Liverpool, Everton, Bournemouth, Arsenal. So I actually think a lot of people are piling into Crystal Palace, which I totally understand. But I don't think the fixtures are as good as what a lot of people are making out. For context, this is filtered by difficulty, so Leeds being at the top, Man United at the bottom. Now, of course, if you want a free hit game week 6 strategy, then this completely changes because you take the Liverpool out for Palace, and then, of course, their run is actually a lot better than what it seems. For me, it would be Munoz, cheaper, and, of course, Champions League football returning for Chelsea. Could we see maybe some responsibility given to Hato to play at left back at times? I don't think Cucurella is as locked in for every single game like we knew last season. So just be a little bit cautious about that as well. Free hit with both Haaland and Mo Salah. Well, I have actually built a free hit team. And I had this up on a previous video. Now, a little bit of context here. There is a slight change I would make, but this is the sort of free hit team I would go for in game week 4. Now, I had Harvey Barnes in, but for those that don't know, it looks like he's had his son or daughter literally over the last 48 hours. So that does ask myself a little bit of worry about his game time. Now, there has been a Newcastle team leaking online, and I believe it was FPL Raptor that put it out. Obviously, put the context that in this scenario, you have to just basically take it with a pinch of salt. However, in the past, they have been accurate. And the Newcastle team that he revealed from a source, and again, don't take this as gospel, was Pope in goal, Livramento, their new signing Thor, not Thor from Marvel, Byrne and Hall, Tonali, Bruno Gomes and Joel Linton, and a front three of Elanga, Voldemada, obviously their new signing, and Harvey Barnes. So if that is the case, then I do think Harvey Barnes is a really exciting pick. So this is a sort of free hit team that I would go for personally. I think Arsenal coverage with what's going on with Forest right now, I think is good. Double Palace because the attack is very unpredictable. Livramento for some Newcastle coverage. Then in terms of a midfield for Mo Salah, Semenyo. No, Semenyo isn't the captain. I've just accidentally left it there. Gakpo and then Harvey Barnes with Mateta, Ekitike and Gyökeres up top. I've highlighted the fixtures that I would like to target. I definitely think there are other ones. Like I said, Fulham against Leeds. I've got the bench players. Just very difficult sometimes to understand where those points are going to be in that Fulham team. Maybe it is a Muniz, possibly, but I would roll out something like this. I think you've got all the bases covered. And then you can roll the dice with other picks. If you want to go for Newcastle's new man, Voldemada, maybe he has a similar start to that of Ekitike in game week 1. You really are laughing then on a free hit if you do bring him in. In terms of Haaland, for a free hit, you can do it, but a bit of context. Take this team as an example. You'd have to take Gyökeres up to Erling Haaland, which is going to take 5 million. So then straight away, you've got to take the money out of Ekitike down. That's going to be a cheaper forward. There aren't many cheap forwards in the game right now, with Strand Larsen being ruled out and Everton looking fine if you want to go there. Got to take some money out of the midfield. I don't love it. I think if you're going for a free hit this week, you maybe just roll the dice and not go with Erling Haaland, or you take a roll, you go for Haaland and no Mo Salah. Steamboat saying, "Hey Nacho, hope you're well. Best replacement for Ismail Assar, and he has 7.8 million in the bank." We'll touch on Sarr in a minute because I'll come on to my own team and talk about a bit of a discussion of alternatives available. So hopefully you can wait for just 5 minutes and I will touch on that, mate. Ollie, I'm trying to roll till 7, but my team isn't looking good, so I don't really know what to do. Ollie, as always, mate, drop your team in the chat. I'll try and get that covered off as good as I possibly can. And guys, make sure you do vote in the poll here. We've got 72 votes. Are you using a chip this game week? We got 15% saying free hit, 24% saying wildcard, and 61% saying no chip. What's happening with Ndai? Looks like with Ndai that he is touch and go for this week, so I wouldn't be looking to buy him. If I owned him, I probably wouldn't sell him. I would just hope for the best, really. Captain Munoz, Ahmad, I do not mind it at all. If you want to roll the dice on Ahmad, then on Munoz, then I don't mind it. I have the same team as yours, but I have 2 free transfers. What do you suggest I do? With 2 free transfers, of course, we'll come on my team in a minute. It does offer some flexibility, and I think we'll look at that in a minute, my friend. More than all, I like my team this week. Shock and score guaranteed. That is always the way. Sometimes when your team looks horrendous, it's actually the weeks where they do deliver. So keep putting your stuff in the chat, guys. I'll obviously be interested to see what you guys are doing in terms of transfers. What I'm going to quickly do is just give you a bit of context if you haven't checked out my content this week on where my team is currently looking, and then we can reflect on what to do with my team. So this is how we're looking. Now, I've left the chips up on the screen at the top just for a bit of context, because I know it's a week where chips are being thrown out everywhere. So for my team, I've got all the chips still unused. Bench boost, of course, is not getting used. Triple captain is not getting used. Wildcard at this time, it's just a little late for me to activate it, I feel. And free hit is a potential, but I think I am just going to stick with my team and possibly make a transfer. But in terms of the face of the team right now, goalkeeper absolutely fine. Is what it is with Sanchez. I think he's perfectly fine for this game week. Double Spurs, not ideal. But is it enough for me to look at this team and go, I need to sell a Spurs defender? No. And Anderson at home against Leeds, perfectly fine. In terms of the midfield for Salah, perfectly fine. Bruno Fernandes, I know some people hate him, but for this week, he is not the worst thing. Rodgers on another week would be a problem. But with the other issues in my team, I just got to roll out double Villa once again and hope for the best. And then Dewsbury Hall against Aston Villa. Now again, don't get excited about the 12-pointer that he had in game week 3. I don't think that's going to be a common thing for him. But it was really promising that he played in the number 10. And I think with me owning him right now, look, if I was buying fresh and everybody was fit and available, my ranking would be Ndiaye, Grealish, and then Dewsbury Hall. However, we know Ndiaye is a slight risk. Grealish, I think, is fantastic, but there's no way I'm upgrading Dewsbury Hall to Grealish. I'm happy with Dewsbury Hall in the team. And then we got a front three of João Pedro away against Brentford. For those that haven't seen the news about Maresca, bit of a problem. The Brazilian trio, which included Andre Santos, Estevao and João Pedro, only returned yesterday or the day before. Doesn't look like they're going to get any training because, of course, the fixtures today, for those that don't know, that includes Chelsea as the 8 p.m. kickoff away against Brentford. So it doesn't look like João Pedro is really going to get much game time in a Chelsea shirt in preparation on the training pitch. So that is a slight issue about what his minutes could entail. Cole Palmer's been pictured back in training, but we don't really know whether he's going to be available. I think, if I had to guess, João Pedro starts and he comes off as a sub. So we're going to keep him, of course, and Watkins, as I discussed, with Aston Villa. It's not a great situation to be in, but I think I'm just going to keep him in my team because it doesn't address the problem. And the problem is going to be, I'm starting Chris Wood away against Arsenal. My alternatives include Murillo away against Arsenal. Well, that ain't going to happen. Steve at home against Liverpool, not playing that. And of course, we've got Ismaila Sarr, who is confirmed to be ruled out for game week 4 and most likely game week 5. So we're looking at Ismaila Sarr basically returning around game week 6, which is not ideal because it is at home against Liverpool. And then the fixtures afterwards are okay. So there is an argument to keep Ismaila Sarr. For my team, it now all comes back to how can I optimize this team the best way? Now, a lot of people will just say to me, get rid of Ismaila Sarr, bring in a midfielder. But with 0.7 million in the bank, I don't actually love a lot of the alternatives. And we'll come on to that in a minute. But that's how the team is looking right now. We'll come on to the plans. I just want to answer a few more questions and then we'll get back into my team because I don't want to be selfish. I want to make sure I answer all of your questions as well, guys, of course. So let me get back to where I was in the chat. Why is no one talking about Eze? I think really, you never have to be the first one to own a player. Eze is not new to the league. We know he's a fantastic player, but we don't know what his minutes are going to be like yet. Is it going to be integrated with Martinelli? Until I actually see some guaranteed game time from Eze, and to be honest with you, with the fixtures coming up for Arsenal, when I bring him up on the screen for you here, is there a real temptation to bring him in? Forest, City, Newcastle away. I'd rather monitor him over those next 3 game weeks and then understand exactly what to do with him. Hit the wildcard with the Haaland and Salah combo. Che, I don't mind it. But for those that tuned into my previous video, my wildcard, I don't have it as a screen here. I do apologise. But I think I would go for Salah, not Erling Haaland, and then flip it in game week 6. Start Elliot Anderson or Wood. I'm going to be honest, I would go for Elliot Anderson. I think he has way more avenues for points, and I'm slightly concerned Chris Wood might be on the bench with the travelling that he's done off the back of his international break duties. Captain Semenyo, I mean, it's not the worst thing in the world. I wouldn't put him in my top 3, but at home against Brighton, I've seen worse. I've seen a lot worse, so I don't mind it. If I've done a transfer this week, can I change it to a wildcard and I have my transfer back? Yes. So wildcard kind of eradicates anything that you've previously done. So if you had 2 free transfers, you use both of them, and then you thought to yourself, oh, I actually need to use my wildcard. You can wildcard, and then in game week 5, you will come back to those 2 free transfers. Remember, you don't roll a transfer when you activate a chip. So it basically just continues what you had previously. Best Salah replacement excluding Semenyo. I'll talk about that in a minute because I have to go through it myself with my own team. Chris saying Molinacho, Cunha, Saad, Cooper to Semenyo, Paqueta, Munoz for a -8. But team looks good for the next 3 weeks with Munoz as captain this week. So of course, Chris, you're selling the injured Cunha. I believe he's out. Saar out. I don't know the status on Cooper, but you're bringing in 3 fantastic options. -8 is never good, but if your team right now doesn't allow you to bring in any sub players, then yes, I can get behind those moves. Morning guys, can I play Rodon or do I go Dorgu to Gay or Senesi? I have no Palace players, thanks. So in terms of Rodon with his situation with Leeds, against Fulham, Wolves, Bournemouth, Spurs, the fixtures are okay. I think you can play Rodon because from a defensive contribution perspective, I think he can be fine. But if you're looking to solidify your team long term, I do think Dorgu to a Senesi or Gay isn't a bad coverage, and I'm in a position right now where I might buy one of those 2, so I'll talk about where is the best route to go for. One thing I want to talk about quickly is defensive contributions, because people are asking me who is the best players for defensive contributions based on per 90 minutes. So I've got the table here. Let me know if you can't see it too well on your screens. Hopefully you can, because I'm trying to include basically everybody. And this is a really big part of the game, as we know. Defenders need to get 10 defensive contributions to get 2 additional points. So in this scenario, we are looking for those players that are consistently hitting them. Now, it's only been 3 game weeks worth of information, but based on the information we had last season as well, I do think we can come to some conclusions. So you can see here, Ballard top of the list, but he's only played 2 games. I wouldn't include him in this per 90 minutes because his is a little bit skewed. What we're looking at is the highlighted column where you can see total. So the next best is Senesi, 14.33 defensive contributions per 90 minutes. And I do think this is something that he will continue to do as a Bournemouth player. Just everything becomes his in that Bournemouth team, and mainly due to clearances. 10 clearances per 90 minutes. He's getting 2 tackles per 90, and that really is where he's picking up all of his points is the clearances. Van Dijk again, ridiculous clearances in that Liverpool team. But maybe with this fixture starting to turn and be a bit better, we might see him actually drop off on defensive contributions, because we need to remember he's played up against Bournemouth, who are a fantastic attacking team, Newcastle with 10 men, and of course we had the situation with Arsenal. So I personally think Van Dijk's numbers could slightly drop off because of the difficult start that they had and the easier games that they do have coming up. Then the big one for me is going to be Lacroix, coming in at 12.67 defensive contributions. So once again, when we're looking at Palace players, is that enough to justify him over somebody like a Richards who is down here? Now, he is falling just below the threshold per 90 minutes, but of course, only just. And I do think he has the ability to hit the defensive contributions on a more regular frequency. But it's clear Lacroix is in a bit of a league of his own. Now, for those asking regarding Munoz, because of course we need to ask ourselves, can Munoz offer defensive contributions and attacking potential? I'm scrolling down right now to see where he does appear, and you can see him here. So he is averaging 7 defensive contributions per 90. Now, he definitely hit them last season, so it isn't like he cannot hit them, but Lacroix and Richards are offering a bit more in that department. I want to see if I've gone past Mark Gahey. He might be on this list. Otherwise, if I've missed Mark Gahey, I do apologise. Maybe. Here he is. So you can see here again with Mark Gahey, very much more of a less aggressive defender here. Lacroix and Richards doing the business, and Gahey being a bit more of a, you know, ball-playing centre-back maybe in this situation, not really racking him up. So I would be a little bit cautious to go to Mark Gahey as opposed to Richards. I think Richards offers just as much in that area. So for those people who are looking at Crystal Palace players, I probably would rank them as number 1 Munoz, number 2 Lacroix, number 3 Richards. But you can see here, there are a few players that really come into their own, and that is why Senesi is being spoken about a lot, because he's hitting some fantastic numbers in that team. Just seeing what I have missed in the chat, guys. Damien, I hope you're doing well, mate. What's your thoughts on Richarlison? So I think Richarlison has had a good start to the season. However, it looks like Solanke is still out, so that's not an ideal scenario, of course. Great for Richarlison owners. But with the signing of Kolo Muani, I need to understand whether he's going to be a left-sided attacker or a centre forward. And because of those doubts, I think Richarlison is a perfectly fine hold if you own him, but long term, I wouldn't be looking to buy him as a pick. I think you get game week 4, but I think those minutes are going to really start to tail off, just because, of course, we have competition for places with the likes of Kolo Muani, as I discussed. So I wouldn't be buying Richarlison now. And again, guys, if you're enjoying this, please do consider hitting that subscribe button. Always massively appreciated, as always. If to replace Mateta, Ekitike, and João Pedro for Gyökeres, who would it be? None. Now, I might be a little bit biased here because I'm a Chelsea fan and I am a little bit of a pessimistic Chelsea fan sometimes, but I think João Pedro has been fantastic. But looking at the fixtures coming up for Chelsea, they've got Brentford away, where he's a bit of a minutes risk. In between 4 and 5, they've got Bayern Munich away. And then on Saturday, they've got Man United away. So it isn't the most ideal situation. I don't think João Pedro is essential over the next 2. Then, of course, he's got his old club in game week 6, followed by Liverpool at home in 7, Forest away in 8, which we don't really know what Forest are going to be like by game week 8. But then quite a nice run of Sunderland, Spurs, Wolves, Burnley, Arsenal, Leeds. So that's a long way in the future. I do think João Pedro is expendable over the next couple of weeks just because of Champions League football returning. And with Delap being out, I think João Pedro is going to be really important for that Champions League run. And maybe that means his minutes in the Premier League, while they might not be hindered, might be damaged just through fatigue and or with his involvement in the Champions League. So of all of them, controversially, it would be João Pedro. But I do think right now with his ownership, it takes a very brave manager to get rid of him. I've lost the chat, guys. I do apologise. If I've missed anything, please do repeat it in the chat, because it looks like I've kind of missed where we were at. Is Gay going to play? I think so. I don't see why he wouldn't. If to replace Mateta, Ekitike, and João Pedro for Gyökeres, who would it be? Covered that one off, so hopefully I'm back where I was. Sell to Steve or sell Concert to also get Richarlison in. I personally would be looking to buy Richarlison now. With Kolo Muani waiting in the wings, I think that is going to be a risk for minutes in that scenario. Morning, mate. Who would you start? Josh King or Anderson of Nottingham Forest? I would have to play Josh King with that fixture being so good and just hope that he gets some decent minutes. It's worth noting, I do think Josh King, if he starts, gets 65, and if he doesn't play, he gets 35. But nonetheless, I think that probably will be better than what Anderson will do. Well, maybe not better, but I do think Josh King has the highest ceiling this week. Anderson or Wood, for me, it would be Anderson. Semenyo and Ekitike or Fernandes and Voldemada on a free hit. On a free hit, I wouldn't have Bruno Fernandes. I would just go completely against him. So I would go for Semenyo and Ekitike myself. I think Bruno Fernandes is fantastic. You guys know that I always have him whenever I can own him in the game. And this season's no different. But if I was free hitting, I wouldn't be having Bruno Fernandes. It's a great opportunity to go against him for those that are keeping him this week. Could he do something? 100%, but... Jez saying, appreciate your work, thank you, mate. I have Palmer, Sarr, Aït-Nouri. Who do I sell first? Well, it looks like Aït-Nouri is out for 5 weeks. Palmer could be back, and Sarr is going to be 2 game weeks. So based on that logic, it has to be Aït-Nouri because he's so much money as well. So in terms of selling him, it comes down to what you want to do. If you're looking at a premium, then I think you do one or two things. You go Virgil van Dijk for Liverpool. I think they have good fixtures long term. Or you go to someone like Gabriel. Tough fixtures in the short term, good in the long term. Otherwise, you downgrade. You go to a Munoz, I think it's fantastic for this game week, or you come all the way down. I think keeping your structure as a premium is important, and I think probably I would go for Munoz if you don't own him at Crystal Palace. Otherwise, I would go for Virgil van Dijk with maybe the anticipation of moving him to a Gabriel later down the line once the fixtures swing. Larson to Mateta for a -4 or roll. Well, Chris, it looks like Larson's out, so it's all about what does the rest of your squad look like? Are you in a position where, you know, you actually do have... it's one of those situations where I do think with the points hit here, what's your alternative? Who's coming in for your team? Let me know on that one, Chris. Should I start Wood or... Dewsbury Hall? I would go Dewsbury Hall myself. So let's take a look at my team. Let's take a look. Enough waffling, as I say in my intros. Let's take a look at my team and the options available. So I'm not going to talk about a wildcard or a free hit because I just don't think I'm there with my team. I think my team's woeful. It's worth noting, but I don't think I'm there in terms of wanting to do a free hit. I just think the fixtures are okay, but I don't feel like a free hit is needed for my team. And a wild card, I personally still think there's a lot that's going to unravel over the next few weeks. A lot of players that we need to understand how they are in terms of FPL value. So I don't want to touch a wild card. So I got one free transfer. So first up, in terms of Ismail Assar, because that is the obvious one to address, 0.7 million in the bank. If we do sell him, I've got 7.2 million in the bank. So we are looking at players like Brennan Johnson, no thank you. Elanga, don't want him. Clivert, no. Madueke, no. Neto, Sade, no. Xavi Simons is the one that really is the punt, but I really like him as a pick. But unfortunately, it is just very brave to go there at 7 million, not really knowing what he's going to do, and Champions League football. So I'm going to rule him out. Grealish, I think, is fantastic. If I didn't have Dewsbury Hall, I would be very tempted. But double Everton midfield doesn't make a lot of sense with Liverpool away in game week 5. So I've ruled out Jack Grealish. Enzo, once again, tempting. But Champions League football for Chelsea, I just don't really love it for Enzo myself. Kudus, I don't mind. But I spoke about this before. I think Kudus is great, but more as a creator as opposed to a goal scorer. I don't really know what the Xavi Simons introduction into this team is going to do for Kudus, so I don't feel compelled to go to Kudus there. Then we look at the rest of the players on that list. I don't want any of them. Then we come to some cheaper options. I don't think anyone on this list is an option. Matoma, personally, I've just never been a big fan of Matoma as a pick. Not having Nottingham Forest, of course, because we have no idea. Yeremy Pino is kind of the huge differential here. He is going to be the natural replacement for Ismail Assar. I can't lie, I've never seen him play football. So me buying a player that I've never seen kick a football just never really sits well with me. But if anyone wants to go there, I'm not against it. Then we come down to some cheaper options. This is probably the first legitimate choice. Paqueta. Penalty taker, he's looked good. Spurs at home, Palace at home, Everton, Arsenal, Brentford. Not a bad choice. The problem for my personal team is I've got double Spurs defence. So I don't really benefit, really, bringing in Lucas Paqueta. Not the best argument, but nonetheless, it's not one that I really am tempted to bring in. Then we come down to the rest of the choices. I think Reinders is a consideration. Good, terrible, but good fixtures along the way. I need to know whether I can bench him in game week 5 is going to be the honest answer here. So this is probably the one that I'm leaning towards right now, a bit weirdly. What others are moaning about owning Reinders, I feel like maybe this is the route to go for. So if we drop Reinders in the team right now and bring him in for Chris Wood, because I just don't think Chris Wood is a pick this week. Going into game week 5, the team would look something like this. We'd have Pedro Porro, Murillo and Anderson. Salah, Reinders away against Arsenal, not ideal. Bruno Fernandes and Rodgers. Chris Wood, Watkins and João Pedro. So that's how the team would look for game week 5. I don't think it's a disaster, but Reinders away against Arsenal, not amazing. But I would be looking to roll my transfer here. Then we get into game week 6, and this is where a potential free hit could be made. But what I don't mind is the team looks fine. Reinders at home against Burnley. Salah, Bruno Fernandes, Rodgers, Chris Wood, Watkins, João Pedro, and 2 free transfers in the bank to allow me to make whatever moves I want to make, if it be Mo Salah out, bring in Erling Haaland up front. So that's my first plan, is doing Sarr to Reinders and getting it done. Now, to give you an idea of the other option is going to be keep Ismaila Sarr. I don't like this move, but I do think it also is not the worst move in the world. So what I do here is I get rid of a Steve and I bring in somebody cheap. That most likely is going to look like Senesi because the defensive contributions are so damn good. So if I bring in Senesi at home against Brighton, I don't love it, but I think it's better than that of double Spurs defence away against West Ham possibly. The issue here is I still have to play Chris Wood, so it doesn't really resolve my glaring issue here. So what I might have to do is play a 4-4-2 and still play the double Spurs defence and just pray for a miracle. Going into game week 5, I'd ask myself, would I play Senesi? Well, I wouldn't bench Anderson, Murillo or Pedro Porro, but of course I would need him for replacement of Ismaila Sarr. So I'd play a 4-3-3 in game week 5, and then in game week 6, I probably wouldn't even need Senesi in here because the other players look quite good, and I would have 2 free transfers to change my team up. So that's option 2. Again, it doesn't really help with the scenario, and I'm keeping Sarr in my team, which is not an ideal one because we could get to game week 6 and he's got Liverpool at home and he returns, and I ask myself, why the hell have I kept Ismaila Sarr in my team for this period? So I don't love that idea. I don't love it. The other option is, let me reset it, is effectively take a -4 or get rid of Van de Ven and bring in Lacroix. So what that would look like is this. Once again, it doesn't resolve the Chris Wood issue. I think this is a real problem for my team. And if anything, this move just brings in a Palace player for the sake of bringing in a Palace player. So I've already ruled this move out. I'm just going to cancel that now. There is a -4 option. There definitely is a -4 option, which will include selling Ismaila Sarr and possibly even a Chris Wood to help me out this week. So really, when we're looking at our players here, if I was looking to sell Ismaila Sarr, I could go to Semenyo, but that would need to free up basically 0.2 in order for me to go there. In order to free up the 0.2, it could be at the expense of Murillo, if I don't really feel like Murillo is a fantastic option. So what I could do is take Murillo out, bring in a Lacroix, and my team would look like this for the game week, which I don't think is terrible, but it is for a -4. Then in game week 5, my team kind of picks itself. I think that team looks absolutely fine for game week 5. And then coming into game week 6, we would have, once again, a pretty decent team. But I probably would have to play Anderson over Lacroix there. And then we'll be using our transfers to bring in Erling Haaland. So, again, a little bit difficult, really, to understand exactly what to do with my team. Very hard. I haven't really come to any concrete conclusion. Let me know what your thoughts are. What moves would you make based on what I showed you? The -4 doesn't really sit too well with me, but it does get me Semenyo. But in a -4 in this week, I just don't really love it. What I think about Xavi Simons, I think he's a brilliant player. No idea what he's going to be like as a fantasy option right now. So I don't love being the first to own him. Would you sell Wharton to Elliott for a 3-week punt? What do you think the odds of Elliott starting are? I wouldn't be surprised if Elliott starts, to be honest with you. I think Villa are missing that creative edge in their team. I think they got a lot of runners and they got the deep creativity in Tielemans, but they don't have that pocket player. They had it in Asensio. They don't really have it this year. So I think Elliott is really needed in the Aston Villa team, and I do think he comes in this week, to be honest with you. Remember, he was fit and raring to go for Liverpool. So he is a perfect example of a player similar to Xavi Simons, where he can just come in and play straight away. We've got, if I sell Milenkovic on a free, who is the best replacement for him and is it worth it? Well, firstly, I think a Palace defender is a good alternative. Otherwise, when we look at the fixtures here, as we discussed, and I'm looking to bring in a long-term pick, I do think Senesi is good. You could play him in the next 2. You could play him away against Leeds. You could play him against Fulham. He's a really good long-term option for your team. So I don't mind that move at all either. Morning, mate. How you doing? Hope you're doing well, mate. This is from DM McDonald. I've got a wildcard active this week, going with Sanchez, Livramento. This is your wildcard. Porro, Chalobah, Salah, captaincy, Gakpo, Simons, Kudus, Pedro, Mateta, Gyökeres. Thoughts? I don't mind it. I think double Chelsea defense, I don't love. Like Sanchez and Chalobah isn't my preference. But I think you've covered off a lot of good players. I think a Senesi would be a nice long-term pick for you in that squad, though. Wirtz or Grealish captain? That's a tricky one. I think based on what we've seen, I probably would lean towards Grealish just because Wirtz obviously hasn't really done it yet. But what a brilliant opportunity to go for Wirtz, really double down on both the ownership and the captaincy this week. But I don't love Grealish captain. I don't like either captain, I'm going to be honest. Dorgu to Senesi, I do like that move, yes. Yerry Pino is a 6 million pick in wildcard. Don't mind it, but I will have to say I've never seen him play. So if you're asking me about like what is he like as a player, I'm not your guy. I do apologise on that one. Ollie, Sanchez, Porro, Cucurella, Munoz, Gakpo, Anderson, Semenyo, Kudus, and the bench I have Williams, Dorgu, and Sarr. So you've got a back 3 of Porro, Cucurella, and Munoz, which is perfectly fine. Gakpo, Anderson, Semenyo, Kudus in midfield. Wood, Haaland, Jopet. Williams on the bench, not ideal. Dorgu and Sarr. Ollie, how many transfers you got left, mate? Is Palmer confirmed out? Let me take a look on Twitter, but I don't actually know the status right now on him. Can't see much regarding Palmer, to be honest with you. And of course, with them being the late kickoff, I don't see much coming out. Yeah, I can't see anything right now regarding Palmer. Ollie, you got one free transfer there. Well, you've already got Semenyo, so that's fantastic. I think in your situation, starting Chris Wood is not ideal. Similar situation to myself. So I think Sarr out is a preference, but I also would argue Dorgu to a Senesi is also not a bad choice in your team. Opens up a few more options for you. Man United in the next run in, if you see him here, City, Chelsea, Brentford, you get him for Sunderland. Dorgu could be fantastic, but I don't mind the idea of maybe a Dorgu to a defender that you could play this week like a Senesi, which enables you to then bench Chris Wood. Joe saying, any idea about getting rid of my double Villa? Well, it's not ideal. I'm going to be honest with you. They've got Europa League football between Sunderland and Fulham. But there's just other problems in my team right now, unfortunately. Just to give you a bit of context on how my team's looking. This is kind of where we're at right now. Not great. Not great. So selling Villa just isn't a priority for my team right now. And I am hoping that maybe they do eventually hit the ground running. Maybe Harvey Elliott is the kind of creativity that they needed to get things going once again. Because I think Rodgers is a great player. He's not really a creator. He's more of a powerful runner. Watkins needs someone to feed him. Tielemans can do that, but he's kind of carrying the team right now for creativity. So I do think there is a position where, yeah, is there a rule where Forest get a new manager banked and just win at Arsenal? I think Arsenal are the worst possible team for Forest to play. The reason being is they're just so damn good defensively. So Forest would have to put up such an incredible turnaround for them to do anything, lay a glove on Arsenal. I think if it was another team, possibly, but I think Arsenal are just so well drilled defensively that you have to be a really good team to create chances against Arsenal, I feel, personally. I just don't think Forest are going to lay a glove on them. Maybe I might be wrong. Who's the best 6 million defender in a wild card? Well, in terms of the wild card situation, we have to look at it long term. And this is why wildcard in Game Week 4 doesn't sit perfectly with me. Because as I said, Arsenal from Game Week 7 I think are essential. The fixtures are fantastic. You can see them there, West Ham, Fulham, Palace. I think they're good. But right now, at 6 million, I probably would say Virgil van Dijk. Burnley, Everton, Palace, Chelsea, man, they're not amazing. But it gives you that placeholder for a future player to be in there, like a Gabriel, if you want to do a sideways move. Right, I want to get my team locked in. So as you can see, I can't roll out this team. I just don't know if Chris Wood is really the route to go for. So which players actually offer me value? Well, there are players that offer me value. For example, if I sell anyone in this 11, that doesn't resolve the Wood issue. So you've got to look at the bench and say to yourself, who do I not need in future game weeks? Well, you know, in game week 5, Murillo has a purpose. Ismail Assar doesn't. But of course, I don't really know who I want to get rid Ismail Assar for. And sometimes when you don't know where to go, the best thing is to keep. But I don't love that, obviously. So if we're talking about this logic, then, well, what helps me is getting rid of Steve, obviously, bringing in Senesi, as we discussed. Playing him against Brighton and benching Chris Wood, and we go for a 4-4-2. And this is the team. Don't love it, but I just don't think Chris Wood does much against Arsenal myself. Then in game week 5, as we discussed, Senesi would come in once again, and we probably roll out another 4-3-3, which is not ideal. But when we look at the fixtures for game week 5, I don't really know what I want. That is a hard team to buy from right now. Probably don't want to buy either. Forest, well, I've got Chris Wood and Murillo if they are going to turn a corner, so that's great. But I actually think that's a tough fixture, weirdly. West Ham Palace, again, I can give or take that. Man United Chelsea, again, I can leave that fixture. I've got double. I've got a defender, but I don't really think it's incredible either. And we want to avoid this game. So I think the Senesi move helps. I think game week 5 is tough. So I think this kind of picks itself. And then game week 6, as we discussed, Senesi comes in for his away game against Leeds, most likely. Well, does he? Murillo comes in here, and we address the scenario. The problem is, I'm just keeping Sarr on my bench each week, which is not ideal. But I think the defender helps me more than a rogue midfielder that I don't really know who I want. So that's why Steve does make a lot of sense. I think Murillo still also offers value in our teams. I don't have a Palace defender, but I think, do I want him after this week? Not really. That's why Senesi is a bit more of a default neutral player for me. Ollie, Wood Gyökeres is a move that I actually don't mind at all. I think that's a really aggressive move. Of course, you might have Chris Wood for 5 and 6, but we have no idea whether Ange is even going to favour Chris Wood or somebody else. So that move is not bad at all. I don't hate that. Don't hate that. More strategy, Forest, if they try and play defensively with Ange in charge, I see nothing but an Arsenal win there in that scenario. I don't think he defensively knows what to do to get those dirty games won against an Arsenal, is worth noting. So yeah, I think that's the scenario right now, guys, for me. I think it's going to be either a Steve to... It's either a Steve to... Just going to write this down so I don't forget. A Steve to Senesi. But I think Brighton are good. Or Sa to Reinders. Those are the two options. When we look at Reinders as a choice, how's he actually been doing? If we take a look at Reinders here, 0.14 expected goal involvement, 0.08, 0.34. Ain't fantastic. Ain't fantastic. But it does give me a piece of the Man City attack if I do think they are going to turn a corner. Bob, Oscar Bob I'm talking about, I don't mind. Numbers are good. Numbers aren't bad. Started big games for them. When we look at the status right now of Man City, the injury status, I'm just going to have to expand it for you a minute so you can see what I am looking at. Let me just drop this over there a minute. So, in terms of who they have available to them in terms of a lineup, I mean, Haaland's going to play down the middle. Rodri's going to play in the normal 6. So they're going to play Haaland up top. Obviously a normal back 4. Rodri at the base. Marmoush is out for a couple of weeks. Cherki's out. They've got Doku. They've got Foden, who really isn't showing much. Reinders is going to play in an advanced 8 role, I'm sure of it. Probably going to see Bernardo Silva in a midfield central role. And then we're probably going to see Calvin Phillips. No, of course we're not. And then we're going to see Bob on the right. And we're going to see Doku off the left. Guys, what are your thoughts? Am I wrong there in terms of that lineup? Let me have a look at some Man City predicted lineups. Let me just have a look, because I think Oscar Bob could actually be quite a exciting pick. Yeah, so I personally think the only real thing about coming at this team, just seeing right now what they're saying. So someone I'm looking at right now is Luke Dis FPL, who basically does the Man City predictions. And they're saying right now, what is the best City to get on wildcard for the long term? Who is likely to get more minutes? Reinders probably second best, but wondering if any point punting on Oscar Bob. And Luke said, it's Reinders. Yeah, I'd love to say Bob or Doku, but with Foden and Savinho back, maybe even this game, it just seems too risky. Have to assess every week. If Foden's starting to 10 of us, so suddenly things change, which is fair. So maybe Reinders, if Haaland isn't going to get the goals, Reinders has got to do something in that team. So with that being said, let's get this up. Does Reinders solve everything? Sa out for Reinders. Reinders comes in. It means I could bench Chris Wood. It's not great at home against Man United, but I think Man United are still not there right now. Then in game week 5, Reinders is away against Arsenal. So I would play... probably would have to play Reinders, which is not ideal. And play something like this, which is okay. But I'd obviously rather have a defender who can get defensive contributions than Reinders away against Arsenal. But things can change. Things can change in this scenario. And then in game week 6, we have got Reinders at home against Burnley, which is fantastic. Shrewsbury Hall can happily sit on the bench. Anderson can sit on the bench as well. Team looks pretty good for game week 6, and Reinders in at home against Burnley, which just looks fantastic. And I don't really see him losing his place right now. So really, it is that sort of debate. So I'm going to put a quick poll in, which option would you go for? Would you do Sarr to Reinders? Would you do Steve to Senesi? Or I'll put other and just drop me a comment what you would do. I think that's more exciting for me than playing a defender, I'm going to be honest with you. So right now, that is the temptation. Sarr out, Reinders in, money in the bank, loads of flexibility. But I'm intrigued to know what your guys' thoughts are, because I think Reinders is slightly overhyped, but I see no way he doesn't start every minute of every game coming up, because there's no alternatives to them. And like I said, defensively, yes, it isn't great playing Reinders this week, but the alternative was bringing in Senesi, and Senesi is up against Newcastle. I mean, I rate Newcastle offensively, so it's not like that is just a guaranteed clean sheet for Senesi. And if I brought in a Palace defender away against West Ham, everybody's telling me Paqueta is the next Lionel Messi, so that obviously isn't fantastic either. So I think Reinders is very tempting. And then game week 6, I mean, that is obviously a fantastic fixture, and it allows me to keep the free hit in my back pocket if I don't want to play it, because that team I think looks really strong for game week 6 with 2 free transfers in the bank and the ability to pivot towards whatever team I want to go. So I think Reinders probably is the answer for my team here. I can see a few of you voting. If you could drop me 50 votes, that'd be fantastic on that poll there. Sada Enzo, I don't mind. I just feel like Chelsea are going to be impacted by this Champions League game. I really do. Grealish, just because I've got already investment in Shrewsbury Hall, I don't really want to double up. Ollie, yeah, that makes sense. Going for the free hit in game week 6. You pivot away from Gyökeres away against Nottingham Forest. I think that's a good move. I still got Watkins has delivered nothing. Should I get rid? I'm of the opinion to keep for now, but I get it. It's blind faith sometimes, but I do think Villa are just going to score eventually, and we know where the goals are going to come from if Villa do score. Haaland or Gyökeres for a wild card? Very hard question to answer, because if you go Erling Haaland, the money then that you've got to put elsewhere is difficult. You've got to take a lot of money out of your squad to afford Haaland. So for that, if you're going Haaland, it's no Mo Salah, is my opinion. Start Fulham's King or Reinders and Senesi or Evan Nielsen. Well, I'm always going to favour the attacker over the defender. So I would start Evan Nielsen over Senesi, and I probably would start Reinders over King. So I know Reinders plays the full 90. Do I think Simon starts today? Yes. I think he's so important to this team already. They have no creativity in that midfield. They need him. Free hit suggestions. I have put a free hit video out, but this is what the team looked like. I would probably roll something like this for game week 4. I'd go all out on Liverpool and just hope that they batter Burnley. And I would have a piece of Crystal Palace in defence alongside Arsenal. And that is how my team would look. Just going to take a look to see if there's any sort of news coming out. See if there's anything going on right now in the world of fantasy, if I've missed anything. No, I can't see anything right now. I can't see anything as of yet. And I don't think we are going to get much, to be honest with you. I don't think there's much else out there. Yeah, no, I don't think there's much out there right now in terms of news, guys. So it's kind of is what it is, as we expect. Raya, Lacroix, Vicaria, and Munoz. I prefer Raya and Lacroix personally. I think that just long term it's a much better combination. And I can see you guys are pretty much leaning towards what I'm saying. Sarr to Reinders, Steve to Senesi, only 26%, other 11%, which you guys have been putting in, which is really thankful. Yeah, Mitchell, when I was putting up the video, I was really tempted to hit the wildcard. I know everybody says that, but I was looking at my team and thinking, oh my God, it's looking woeful. And I thought when I was jumping on this stream that I was just going to crack on and I was going to be like, oh my God, this is a painful team. Because let's be honest, if I make the move of Sarr to Reinders, this team ain't great. This team ain't great at all. I've got no Palace whatsoever. I've got no Arsenal, which is terrible. No Fulham attack, which, to be honest, nobody has Fulham attack. No Newcastle. So it doesn't look great. But I think Reinders comes in, gives me the double cheap midfield, and it gives me money in the bank to be flexible in upcoming game weeks. And I just think, sorry, my team is going to look like this, sorry. I'll start Van der Ven. Double Spurs ain't great. But I'm just hoping maybe we get a Thomas Frank masterclass. Yep, Elanga as a free hit punt, I don't hate it. I think the fixture's very good against Wolves, who have looked a little bit ropey in the opening game weeks. And there's a few teams being leaked. There's a Newcastle one from FPL Raptor. We have no idea whether it's legit, but they have been right in the past. Take it with a pinch of salt, but Elanga was part of that team alongside Barnes and their new signing Voldemada up top. What do I think about Sarr to Simons? I've covered that one. I think Simons is very quickly going to become an FPL option for our teams. And it's something that I could be tempted by. If we bring out Reinders and we put in Simons in here. Why is he not coming up? Is it Xavi? Yeah, it was under Xavi. So I can go for Xavi Simons in my team. I go triple Spurs away against West Ham, which doesn't feel fantastic. But the team would look like this. And then I would have him away against Brighton. Once again, they've got Champions League football midweek. Don't know if it's somebody that I'm just confident to jump into. And then they've got Wolves, Leeds, and Villa. So I'm going to be honest. I'm almost going to have Xavi as a bit of a possible one. And what I like about the Reinders move is that I bring him in for this week at home against Man United, and I think City do win this game. Then in game week 5, I don't really want Xavi away against Brighton. I don't feel like it's necessary. But then game week 6 at home against Wolves, once we get into this game week, maybe the time is to go for a Xavi, maybe downgrade Rodgers to Xavi Simons or something. So lots that can be done with this team. I just think that Reinders move makes sense for my side. Sell Concert Steve or Diouf. Treslin, how much money have you got in the bank? That's a big thing. Who should I captain if I have no Salah? Who are your other alternatives? Let me know. If I get Senesi, who between Livramento, Kirkes and Porro can I bench for this game? We were definitely not benching Livramento. I would probably bench Pedro Porro. Ewan saying, I'm on wildcard 4 as well, and I've planned a 5-2-3, going double Salah and Haaland and 5 Defcon Magnets. Final slot is a midfielder at less than 6.5. Any ideas? Well, Reinders, I think, is a good choice. I think not next week, but in between that is good. So yeah, I think that's not a bad choice, Reinders, if you haven't got him in already in your team. Otherwise, I think Lucas Paqueta is a great choice on penalties. Something that I've considered, but again, I just don't love the idea of bringing in Paqueta when he's playing my double defence. Maybe I'm being a bit foolish there, but for me, I just don't love that idea. And then he's at home against Palace this week, which looks good, to be honest with you. And then this week away against Everton, when Reinders is at home against Burnley. And then he's got Arsenal. So Paqueta I like. The numbers have been good, but I think Reinders is still probably the route I would lean towards. Yeah, me too. I think Richards is a good transfer. Yes, I do. Just saying, got 3 million in the bank. Well, really, of your team that you said, I think Konsa just doesn't really do enough from defensive contributions and in terms of what we're seeing with the fixtures. So for that reason, I think you could do, for example, Konsa to just like a Palace defender and be done with it. I think Konsa to Munoz is a huge upgrade this week. I don't mind that at all. Likewise with Juve. Steve could go there as well, but if you're doing that, it does change the structure of a team, and I need to know a bit more information if you actually want to do that. Brian is saying, big fan, thank you, mate. One sub, 1.3 million in the bank. Where would you improve? Verbrugge, Murillo, Porro, O'Brien, Bruno, Salah, and Doy, Rogers, Pedro, Watkins, Mateta, Bencher, Dubravka, Konsa, and Hartman. I don't know who Hartman is. So you're playing Pedro, Watkins, and Mateta up front. That's great. Bruno, Salah, and Doy, and Rogers. And you got one transfer. I mean, Murillo away is not ideal against Arsenal. So I think that team, you could just roll the transfer if you really wanted to. Because you don't have Chris Wood also in your side. But you are starting in Doy. I would start Dewsbury Hall over in Doy myself, firstly. But I think you could roll your transfer if you wanted to. Otherwise, I think it is bringing in, as we discussed, someone like a Senesi, maybe at the expense of Konsa. What would you do about a Salah Haaland wildcard? I don't mind it, but you are making a lot of sacrifices in the rest of your team. I would rather just go for one and really stick with that one. Or you do Salah for 2, Haaland from 6 onwards. Dylan, thank you for tuning in, mate, from Australia. Start Harvey Barnes or Gay. I would start Harvey Barnes myself. That would be definitely the one I would lean towards. I think he's got way more upside. Aït-Nouri to Munoz for a -4. Don't hate it, because Aït-Nouri looks like he's been ruled out for 4 weeks minimum. So I think the Munoz move -4 will pay back over time. Palmer, keep or sell, have a good bench cover. I'd keep Palmer now, I think. I think what others have moved away, I think, will he start this week? I have no idea. But I do think that there is a good chance that he will become a great differential very quickly almost. Once again, I just want to see if there's any news coming out from anywhere in particular, guys. But I can't see much. Yeah, it doesn't look like there's much moves going on. Don't see much. I have SL, Strand Larson, I'm guessing, and Sarr injured with double Forest. Do I use one transfer with 1 million in the bank or wildcard? Daniel, very difficult for me to say to you wildcard with your situation, but if you have Strand Larson and Sarr and double Forest inevitably need to be played, then I think you need to try and solidify your team. And I think Sarr probably is the easiest sell, just because Wolves do have a decent fixture the following week that if he's back, he could be a great differential. Who to bench, Wood or Reinders or Dewsbury Hall? For me, it would be Chris Wood. It's Arsenal. I think they're one of the best defences in the league. Wood's travelled back from international break. Good chance he could possibly be benched. We have no idea yet. For me, it would be Chris Wood, benched. Gordon, doing very well, mate. Hope you're doing well. Would you punt on Voldemort and bench Dewsbury Hall or just start Hall? Voldemort, I mean, great for this week. Afterwards is Visser, the one who's going to get a bit more game time. I love it as a 1 week punt if you want to go there, but otherwise don't love it long term. Palmer to Rodgers for a -4. No, don't love that. Would I bench boost with Dubravka at home against Liverpool, Reinders, Van der Ven and Goodmanson? Nah, not for me. Gordon, late to the party. How are you, mate? Gordon, doing very well. Hope you are too, mate. Connor, I did Saka and Gui to Semenyo and Mateta. Please tell me that's good. It's good. I like that a lot, yes. Start King or Dewsbury Hall. So I think King gets 65. I think Dewsbury Hall gets 90 with some set pieces. But Fulham have the better fixture. Comes down to whether you're a minutes man or not. I think King's the more exciting pick. I think Dewsbury Hall's the sensible choice. Was contemplating Conser, Murillo to Lacroix or bringing Gakpo for Rodgers for a -4. Don't love Gakpo in for Rodgers for a -4, but I do think it could pay off in this fixture, of course. I think the Lacroix move for Conser is where I would lean towards. Start 2 Chelsea defenders or 2 Spurs? If I was starting them, it would probably be Chelsea as opposed to Spurs. Start Caicedo or Ndiaye. I would play Ndiaye because I think Ndiaye either starts or gets 0 minutes. Start 3 from Kudus, Bruno, Reinders and Rodgers. Okay, so I think you can't bench Bruno Fernandes. You just can't. So Bruno has to start. I think I'd bench Reinders controversially. I would bench Reinders. New manager bounce. I just think it's the worst team to have a bounce against. I think Arsenal are just top bracket. I think the defence that they got is the best in the league. I think the midfield that they got is Zubimendi, Odegaard and Rice. I mean, people don't think Arsenal are clicking. I think that's one of the best midfield threes for ball retention, for dominance. And then a front three of Madueke, Gyökeres and Eze. Don't see Forest laying a glove on them. I'm going to be honest. I think this is a comfortable Arsenal win today. I'm certain of it. I think Aina being out is big. I think Anderson's fantastic in the midfield, but I just see an Arsenal win. Comfortable Arsenal win. Start 3. I've covered that one. What do you think of my 2 differentials of my free hit? Madueke and Voldemort. Love it. If we're talking about differentials here from each team, Arsenal's differential is 100% going to be Madueke on that right-hand side. So Madueke, huge differential. From Palace, it's going to be Yeremy Pino. I have no idea what he's like, but it would be him. Fulham, it's going to be Muniz. I think he's a great differential for that game week. Voldemort, of course, for Newcastle is the big differential. For Liverpool, not many differentials are in that team because they're all highly owned. But it probably would be Gakpo. Otherwise, I wouldn't touch the rest, really. Because at the end of the day, you only have 11 picks in a free hit. You aren't really using your bench. So you've got to lean into the big games. That would be double Arsenal, probably. Double Arsenal minimum. Be triple Palace. Be triple Liverpool. I straight away have used like 8 slots there. You only got 3 left. Dabble a bit with Newcastle. Have a little play with Bournemouth if you want to. So guys, I think it might be time to use my transfer. Let's get the most... Oh, I'll tell you what, the voting's definitely shifted. So, bit of context. Here's my team. We're going to do a 1-minute poll. We're going to do a 1-minute poll here, guys. Which I'm pretty certain what I'm doing, but I'm intrigued. So, guys, a quick 1-minute poll. Which would you do? There's no other alternative. It's this or this. Get voting in that. What would you do? Sada Reinders or Steve to Senesi? I'm intrigued to know what you guys would do. Rodgers or Dewsbury Hall to start. Look, maybe I am a crazy man, but it would be Rodgers, which is probably crazy. Is Lacroix worth the extra over Gahey? Yes, I think he is. And I think Richards is better than Gahey myself. I just bought Senesi and I've benched Porro since I have triple Spurs. That's fair. That's absolutely fair. Interestingly, you guys are leaning more towards the Ekitike to Senesi move as opposed to anything else, which is interesting, to be fair. I do wonder whether it's very difficult to know which one is going to pan out, because you look like a genius when you get it right and you look like an idiot when you get it wrong, but no one really knows what the hell is going to happen in the game, do they? Man City might beat United 4-0 and Reinders gets a brace. I don't think that's going to happen, by the way, but yeah, I do think Reinders helps the team a lot with the SAR situation, but I think a defensive transfer is probably more sensible. So just for context, a Steve to Senesi basically brings him in for Brighton. And it's worth noting, Brighton have been good this season, so I don't really think Senesi comes in and... Someone saying Livramento, which is not a bad shout. But I can't afford him unless I sell a bit more of a premium option in my team. Like a Murillo, for example. Like Murillo would have to go. Which is not the worst thing in the world. But am I just being foolish? Do I just get rid of Murillo and get a premium in? Do I just say to myself, I back the big guns and just go, Virgil? Murillo to Virgil isn't horrible. Play that. Doesn't solve my SAR issue at all. It's worth noting. Game week 5, Virgil at home against Everton. Still doesn't solve my thing. I don't think that helps. Murillo to Senesi, yes, but it still doesn't resolve my SAR issue, because look, Murillo to Senesi looks good, but I still have to play that. I still have to play Chris Wood, which isn't great. And then the next week, Senesi at home against Newcastle, and I've just sold Murillo away against Burnley. Not great. And what am I doing with the money, really? That's the big question. What am I doing with the money? Because he's very split, 50-50 on the Esteve to Senesi move. Yeah, I agree. I think Forest could ship goals, but the fixtures are good enough to kind of justify keeping him. Like I said, if Murillo goes out, let's say I go for Gabriel, still doesn't really resolve my team, to be honest with you. Still have to play Chris Wood this week. Sorry, double Spurs defence. It would look like this. This week at home against City, not fantastic either. So yeah, not too sure what to do with this team right now. But we... Can you roll and start Dewsbury? Yeah, but this will still be the team. Still have to play Chris Wood away. Not ideal. Chris Wood away, not an ideal situation. got to sell Saar, in my opinion. I agree. I think Saar doesn't really offer much for a long time in my team. I think Saar to Reinders makes sense. Saar to Reinders, bench Wood. I think that's where I'm going, guys. Saar to Reinders, bench Wood. Game week 5, Reinders away against Arsenal, not ideal. But if I bring in that, one player out of the 11 that I don't like isn't the worst case in the world. And then game week 6, Murillo's in for Sunderland. Reinders is in. Dewsbury Hall sat on the bench. Don't really need him that week. And it means I get to play the aggressive players. I think we're going to do it. I think we're going to lock it in, guys. I think we're going to lock it in. Right, let's answer some more questions here. Murillo, no DEFCONs. Exactly. Murillo is not the best pick, but I'm hoping he can deliver in 5 and 6, possibly. I bought inside this game before we were injured. Yep, absolutely killer. Haaland, Dewsbury, Richards and Anderson, or Gyökeres, Semenyo, Lacroix and Gabriel. I think the second one's better for me. Start in Mbeumo or Wood? I would start in Mbeumo. Play a 4-3-3 next week. That can work, definitely, but the defense isn't fantastic. Still playing double Spurs, which is not great. Agree, the fixtures aren't great. Boy in the autumn, hope we do well, mate. Took Watkins out, so he will start returning now. Yeah, that's always the case in FPL. Start Rodgers or Mbeumo. I probably would start in Mbeumo. I'll start in Mbeumo. Sada Dango, good differential. Yeah, not bad. Not bad. I personally am not there myself. Margui to Mateta -4. Don't mind it, but Margui, if there ever a time for him to play, it will be this week with the injuries that Chelsea have got. Mbeumo out, Enzo in for a -4. No, I'll just play Mbeumo. I think City are still very poor defensively. Still very poor defensively. So yeah, I think that's what we're going to lean towards, guys. I think we're going to bring in Reinders. I don't love it. But I think it probably is where I'm leaning towards right now and just hoping that he does deliver this week. I think for me, if Chris Wood doesn't start, then I'm playing Murillo, which ain't great. Then I'm playing Murillo. So at least Reinders gives me that little bit of coverage. And I think Arsenal are too good. I think Arsenal are just too good. I'm kind of sticking by that. Maybe Ange gets them playing free-flowing football, but if we don't get the news that Chris Wood is starting, then straight away my team is in trouble. And then if Chris Wood does do well, then, well, happy days. Like, I've got him for 5 and 6, which is perfectly fine. I think I'm going to do it. Worst case, I just play this in game week 5, which is not the end of the world. And then game week 6, we roll out this. I think we're going to do it. Let's just get it done. The more I think about it, the more I'm going to be wrestling with other defenders who I think other defenders would make sense in my team, but I think I'm content. I think I'm content with what I've got. Don't know if Wood starts long term myself. So yeah, I think I'm going to do it. Saar out, Reinders in. I've just done that. Wood's going to be first sub. Don't love my defenders, of course, but captaincy on Salah, vice captaincy is probably going to go on Bruno, to be honest with you. So just to give you guys a bit of context, this is how, oh goodness, the team looks. This is how we're looking. Not happy with it, but I needed some game time in there. So Reinders is in. So that is my team. We're going to do a couple more minutes. I'm going to, and then we're going to wrap it up, guys. So let me do a quick Q&A, but this is how my team is looking. I am locked in. Just going to update everyone on my members area. Give me a second, guys. I'll give you guys a second just to drop any questions in while I post this. Cool. Just posted that in there, guys. Pin that. 24 hours. And then we just send this one, and then we can get into the chat and see what's on there. Sorry about this. This is probably the worst content ever, but just give me 2 seconds of just posting it. And Salah captain. Done ad. Okay, let's see what's been put in. Let's go, let's go. What to do with João Pedro? I would keep João Pedro personally. I think he's going to get limited game time, but it kind of just is what it is right now, unfortunately. I think you just have to roll the dice on him. Wood was benched last time we had this sort of travel. Yeah, that's a great point. Who do you think you bench out of Dewsbury Hall, Rodgers and Reinders this week? Ugh. If I had to bench one, probably would be Reinders, even though I've just bought him. Or Dewsbury Hall, but he's on a lot of set pieces. Best 5.1 million defender. I mean, I think Lacroix is just fantastic at that price point. I'm selling Sarr to, mate. Undecided between Paqueta, Dewsbury Hall, or Semenyo. I think if we can get Semenyo, it would be that. Lacroix. If you have Haaland and Pedro, who should I captain? It would be Haaland, definitely. I think Man United always do weird stuff against City, but I think City will score in this game. I think City will score. Right. I think we have to wrap it up there, guys. Thanks so much for tuning in. It's been about an hour and a half or so, so I think it's been a good stream. Hopefully you guys have got your teams locked in. We're going to wrap it up there. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's stream. I've made my team Salah to Reinders, and we're just going to pray that we get some sort of Aston Villa goal, whether it be Rodgers, Watkins, whatever it may be. I need it. So have a great game week. Make sure FPL doesn't ruin your week, because it shouldn't. And I will see you in the next one. As always, if you haven't already, drop a like on the stream, hit that subscribe button, and I will see you in the next one. Take care, guys. Cheers.